virgin olive oil at any leading supermarkets near you. La Familia, heart of the home.
Your station, my station, our station, Radio Al Ansar.
It's Mahomed here, hosting the Next Gen show on Radio Al Ansar. It's not just a radio show, it stands as a powerful movement in its own right. It embodies the essence of individuality, creativity, and positivity, where we explore the latest trends and engage in lively discussions. Expect a mix of insight, humor, and mental health, social justice, and relevance that promises an enlightening and enjoyable listening experience, ensuring you don't miss out on this captivating adventure on Next Gen.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Khutamul Islam, and you're listening to Radio Al Ansar.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is your host Ria Mohammed on Next Gen, right here at Radio Al Ansar. From exploring current trends into delving into pressing issues like social justice and mental health, the show fearlessly tackles the pivotal subjects that resonate deeply within our generation. My mission is to embody authenticity, relatability, and humor, ensuring that even the most challenging discussions become accessible and engaging, creating a space where listeners can feel understood and entertained simultaneously. So today I wanted to touch on last week's topic, which was the weight of perfection, unfiltered mental health in the age of teen pressure, and the social media paradox, right? So let's talk about the social media paradox. Now, the social media paradox refers to the conflicting nature of social media's impact on our lives, right? So on one hand, it offers connection, creativity, and information sharing, but on the other, it often leads to isolation, comparison, and a skewed sense of reality. Now, this paradox can have both a positive and negative effect, particularly on teenagers who are navigating their self-image, validation, and relationships in the digital age. So here are just some questions that I just found on my social media because I put up a poll, right? So let's look at connection versus isolation. So one of the questions was, can online connections replace in-person relationships, or do you think something is lost in translation? Now, I would say this is a complex question, right? So online connections can often offer convenience and reach, but it is hard to replicate the depth and nuance of face-to-face interactions. So while online platforms can facilitate communication and shared experiences, they lack the physical presence, non-verbal cues, and spontaneous moments that often define meaningful in-person relationships. So ultimately, the question of whether online connections can replace in-person relationships is subjective and depends on individual needs and preferences. So then we're looking at curated reality versus authenticity. So the question was, social media profiles are often carefully curated to show the best moments. Do you think that this has made it harder to present your true self online? So how do you think seeing only highlight reels of others affect our own sense of self-worth or reality? So I would say it's definitely a challenge, right? The pressure to present a perfect online persona can make it quite difficult to be authentic. So we all want to put ourselves on social media with our best foot forward, but sometimes it can feel like we're constantly comparing ourselves to unrealistic standards. So seeing only the highlight reels of others can really lead to feelings of inadequacy or a skewed perception of reality. So I say it's important to, remember that everyone's life is a mix of highs and lows, and social media rarely captures the full picture. Then the third was instant gratification versus long-term fulfillment. So the question was, social media gives us instant gratification, likes, comments, shares. Do you find that these short-term boosts make you feel good in the moment, but leave you feeling empty later? So how might our constant need for validation from social media affect our mental health in the long run? So it is true, right? Those instant dopamine hits can be addictive, right? So it's a quick sugar rush that leaves you craving more. Now, the problem is here that craving can become a constant need for validation, which can be detrimental to our mental health. So the constant need for social media validation can lead to anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. So we start to define our worth based on a number of likes or comments that we receive. And that can be a really dangerous path. So it's crucial to remember that our self-worth should not be tied to external validation. And then let's look at validation versus self-worth. The question was, when you post something on social media, do you feel more validated by the number of likes or comments you get? Or do you feel more confident when you're able to express yourself authentically without worrying about others' approval? So how might social media validation change your view of your own self-worth? So what I can say, it is a tough call. I think, in society, we all crave that validation, that feeling of being seen and heard. But ultimately, the most satisfying feeling is knowing that I've expressed myself honestly. And if it doesn't get a ton of likes, so be it. That's fine. I'm fine with that. So social media validation can be a double-edged sword. While it can boost our confidence and make us feel connected, it can also lead to a dangerous dependence on external validation. So it's crucial to find, that balance between seeking connection and maintaining our sense of self-worth. So it's easy to get caught up in the numbers, but true self-worth comes from within. Then information access versus overload. So the question was, social media gives us access to vast amounts of information, but can it sometimes feel overwhelming or stressful? How do you decide what's helpful or harmful to consume? So have you ever experienced information fatigue from too much scrolling or news consumption? How do you manage it? So I would say, as I said before, it's definitely a double-edged sword. The sheer volume of information can be overwhelming, and it's easy to get sucked into a vortex of negativity or anxiety-inducing news. So it's crucial to, be mindful of what we consume and prioritize sources that are reliable and uplifting. So I definitely experience information fatigue. I mean, don't we all? It's like my brain gets overloaded. So to manage it, I try to take breaks, from social media, engage in activities that bring me joy, and focus on real-life connections. So like what I do, for example, is writing, studying, which does bring me stress. I do that because I'm studying law, so I really need to excel and, get on top of my game. So I guess, as I said, it's important to curate my social media feeds, and so is it for you, to follow accounts that inspire you or offer valuable insights. That's what I do. And on social media, I try not to focus on hate and negativity. I mean, I'm going to be honest here and blatant. I have gotten hate for how I speak because people are not used to it and they're not okay with that. But I am, and I'm happy with how I speak. So I don't allow, negative comments on social media where people are bashing me for how I speak affect me. And that's how I think each and every one of us should do. And, love ourselves, express ourselves, and keeping you. That's what I can say. Just keeping you. Don't worry about what other people say. Don't follow negativity. That's what I can tell you. That's how you want to have a balance and be okay. So anyway, the next one was building communities versus echo chambers. Now, the question is, social media helps people find like-minded communities and support groups. Do you think it is easy to find positive, supportive spaces online, or do you find yourself in echo chambers where everyone shares the same opinion? So how do these echo chambers affect your ability to understand or empathize with different perspectives? So I'm going to be honest with you, it's a tricky balance. Social media can be a great way to connect with people who share your interests and experiences, but it can also create echo chambers where everyone reinforces the same views. So echo chambers can make it harder to understand or empathize with different perspectives. So when we're only exposed to information that confirms our existing beliefs, we can become less open to considering other viewpoints. It is important to actively seek out diverse perspectives and challenge our own bases and biases. So it's like looking into a world through a single lens. We miss out on the richness and complexity that comes from seeing things from multiple angles. Okay, now the next one is productivity versus distraction. So the question is, how do you balance your social media use to avoid procrastination or mindless scrolling? So I'm going to be honest with you. I do get distracted by TikTok and Instagram Reels. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, I'd maybe have an assignment to do, okay? And I'd be like, okay, just one more video and then I'll do my assignment. But it does not end up happening. Although then I tell myself, okay, Ria, you are studying law, and if you want to succeed, choose discipline over motivation and work toward achieving your goal. So now motivation is a fickle friend, okay? It shows up when things are going great, but when things get tough, it's the first one to bail. Discipline, on the other hand, is the star you can always count on. It's that steady fast beat, that unwavering commitment that gets you through tough times and keeps you moving forward. So it's like a backbone of success, the engine that drives you to achieve your goals even when the energy is low. So think of it like this, okay? Motivation is like a sugar rush. It gives you a temporary boost, but it fades quickly. Where discipline is like a building muscle. It takes time and effort, but gives you that long-lasting strength. So my advice, focus on building that discipline muscle, because it will take you further than any fleeting burst of motivation ever could. So there are little things that I'm trying to focus on when it comes to relying on discipline over motivation. I could be going to a physical campus and doing contact learning, but I decided to do distance learning because 2 of my main life goals is discipline and independence. And I feel like distance learning can actually enhance that process and really help me, because come on, that needs discipline. You need to focus. So yeah, inshallah, that works out for me. But the next one is social comparison versus self-acceptance. Now, social comparison and self-acceptance are 2 contrasting approaches to how we view ourselves in relation to others. So social comparison is a tendency to, compare ourselves to others, often leading to feelings of inadequacy or envy. And, we might compare our achievements to possessions or even our appearance to others. And we perceive ourselves as lacking, and it can damage our self-esteem. Self-acceptance, on the other hand, is about embracing ourselves for who we truly are, flaws and all. It's about recognizing our unique strengths and weaknesses and accepting them without judgment. It's about valuing ourselves for who we truly are, rather than comparing ourselves to others. So essentially, social comparison fuels a constant striving for external validation, while self-acceptance fosters inner peace and contentment. So here's a little simple analogy that I put up. Social comparison is like, constantly trying to fit into someone else's shoes, which are never going to fit perfectly, of course. Whereas self-acceptance is like wearing your own shoes, comfortable and uniquely yours. So choosing self-acceptance over social comparison is a powerful step toward living a happier and fulfilling life. So social media is a tool that offers tremendous potential for connection, learning and expression, but it also creates a space where comparison, validation seeking and false perceptions of reality can flourish. So by understanding this paradox, teens and anyone else using social media can make more mindful choices about how they engage with these platforms, seeking the benefits while mitigating the harmful effects. So I want to know from you, how do you think constant exposure to curated online lives affects teenagers' mental well-being? So do you think the pressure to appear perfect has worsened over time? I want you to tell me this. I just want to know your perspective. So send us a message via WhatsApp at 060-904-1056, 060-904-1056. Anyway, now let's go a bit onto how the weight of perfection unfiltered mental health in the age of teen pressure. So as I said, I did speak about this last week, but I just wanted to, touch base with this a bit more, because I think it's a really important topic, especially in society when it comes to teenagers today. So now, teenagers today live in a world where pressure is an uninvited guest at every turn, whispering in classrooms, lurking behind social media screens, and echoing through the expectations of family, friends, and society. So the unspoken rule seems to be everything all at once without breaking. But what happens when the cracks start to show? Now, mental health is often polished for the public display, wrapped in an aesthetic self-care routine and bite-sized affirmations. But unfiltered mental health, that's messy. It's the late night breakdowns after pretending all day. It's the anxiety of unread messages because the thought of responding feels like a task too heavy. It's the fear of failure in a world that glorifies perfection but punishes mistakes. Now, teen pressure today is relentless. There's academic stress, the silent battle of comparison fueled by curated online lives, the struggle for identity in an era of ever-changing labels, and the paradox of wanting to stand out but needing to belong. It's a balancing act on a wire so thin that falling feels inevitable, and yet the expectation remains keep walking, smile while you do it. But real mental health conversation should be raw. They should acknowledge that sometimes motivation isn't enough, that reliance and resilience isn't about enduring suffering, but recognizing when to step back. Now, that strength is seeking help, not just pretending that you don't need it. So if we're going to talk about teen mental health, let's talk about it without filter. Because behind every perfectly composed post, there's a real person navigating the storm of growing up in an age that demands too much. And maybe, just maybe, the first step toward healing is admitting that sometimes we need to drop the weight and just breathe. Now, unfiltered mental health in the age of teen pressure. This is what no one's saying, okay? Let's be real, right? Mental health conversations have become trendier than ever. We see it in Instagram posts about self-care, TikToks about therapy wins, and hashtags about mental well-being. But how much of it is actually unfiltered? How much of what we see online truly reflects what it's like to be a teenager in a world that expects you to have it all together? So let's talk about the pressure cooker generation. Now, teenagers today are under a level of pressure that previous generations might struggle to understand. Academic success is no longer just about passing. It's about getting top grades, being well-rounded, and an overachiever, and securing a future in a job market that keeps shifting. So add to that social pressure of looking perfect, living the soft life, and having the worthy life of social media envy. But here's the question. At what cost? How many teens are pushing themselves beyond limits just to maintain an illusion of success? How many are battling silent anxiety attacks while responding to messages with, LOL, I'm fine? How many feel like they have to be strong for everyone else, but no one is strong for them? So, what do you think about the aesthetic versus reality? Let's think about this. Now, there's a polished version of mental health awareness that circulates online, where self-care means scented candles and journaling, and healing is wrapped up in pretty quotes, but real mental health struggles don't always look aesthetic. Sometimes self-care is finally responding to texts after days of isolation. Sometimes healing is forcing yourself to eat when you lost your appetite. Sometimes progress is just making it through the day without completely breaking down. Have you ever felt that way about mental health and, being discussed online that doesn't even match with what you're actually going through? Do you feel pressured to perform your struggles in a way that's more acceptable? Like, please, I want to know your perspective. Please, as I said, message me on WhatsApp via 06090101056, 06090411056. I'd love to know your perspective. Think about this. What is it that no one tells you about asking for help? Now, there's this idea that once you ask for help, things get better. But the truth is, asking for help is absolutely terrifying. It's messy. It doesn't always mean immediate relief. Sometimes the people you turn to don't understand, or worse, they dismiss you for what you're going through. So here's something to think about. If you're ever reaching out for help, or if you ever reached out for help and felt unheard, did you ever try again? Or did you convince yourself that no one would understand? Think about it. Now, because the reality is not everyone will get it. But that doesn't mean no one will. The key is to keep reaching out until you find those who do. So reclaiming your mental health. Your way. No one should have the struggle in silence. But mental health isn't just a one-size-fits-all journey. Therapy works. Some journaling helps others. Some of us may not just be able to afford therapy, but I think journaling is actually a really important step that you could do. Write down your feelings and don't even say, okay, today my mom shouted at me and I'm sad and I'm depressed. I want you to think about this. Go deeply within it. In fact, sum up some questions. Write down some questions and answer them yourself. So, for example, you say, why am I feeling sad? Why did my mom shout at me? Write down that question and write down your answer. Think about how you feel and what's making you feel this way. And this is how you will gain closure. And something that I think is important is when they say, oh no, you're weak, so you cry if you're weak. That is senseless. That makes no sense. If you want to cry, go for it, because that is how you gain, your self-worth, and that higher your self-esteem because you gain closure. And that's how you become happy. So because the reality is not everyone will get it, but that does not mean no one will. The key is to keep reaching out until you find those who do. So reclaiming your mental health your way, that no one should have the struggle in silence. But mental health isn't just a one-size-fits-all journey. As I said, therapy works for some, journaling helps others. So some people may heal by talking, by others creating. So there's no right way, only your way. So let's think about this. I had some more questions that I found on social media where someone said, wait, actually, I'm going to go on a quick ad break and I'll be back.
Teaching you something new every day. Radio Al Ansar.
This segment is brought to you by Kenfield Auto, your RMI approved service and repair specialist. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Kenfield Auto.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaytana wa hab lana min ladunka rahmatan innaka antal wahhab.
Car won't start?
Kenfield Auto.
Noisy brakes?
Kenfield Auto.
Due for a service?
Kenfield Auto. Kenfield Auto, the answer to all your car problems. Your service and repair specialist for your VW, Audi, Suzuki, Toyota, or just about any vehicle. Kenfield Auto, your RMI and insurance approved workshop to handle them all. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call us on 031 207 2399. Kenfield Auto.
There's still time to secure your future with Regent Business School. Final registrations are now open for our accredited degree programs commencing mid-April. Don't let the academic year pass you by. Take the opportunity to register today and advance your career with a qualification that matters. Visit regent.ac.za. Regent Business School. Surround yourself with success.
Hajj Seminar 2025 will take place on Saturday, the 12th of April at 207 West Road in Overport. Program director will be Hafiz Hussain Wadi. Program commences at 7:15 a.m. and will culminate at Zohar with a scrumptious lunch. That's Saturday, 12th April 2025 at 207 West Road. Proudly brought to you by the Al Ansar Foundation and the Capital Group of Companies.
With 49 years of experience in the motoring industry, Metro Car Sales has been proudly serving you since 1976. Need a great deal on your next car? We've got you covered. We offer in-house finance arranged in 1 hour. So, what are you waiting for? Call us now on 033 3942 595. Visit us today at number 1 Boshoff Street, Pietermaritzburg. You can also check out our amazing deals online at www.metrocars.co.za. Metro Car Sales, your number 1 dealer in wheels.
Radio Al Ansar. For me, for you, for everyone.
It's Ria Mohammed here, hosting the Next Gen show on Radio Al Ansar. It's not just a radio show, it stands as a powerful movement in its own right. It embodies the essence of individuality, creativity, and positivity, where we explore the latest trends and engage in lively discussions. Expect a mix of insight, humor, and mental health, social justice, and relevance that promises an enlightening and enjoyable listening experience, ensuring you don't miss out on this captivating adventure on Next Gen.
Radio Al Ansar.
It is your host, Ria Mohammed, on Next Gen, once again back. Now, we were talking about the social media effect. So one of the questions that I had received is, how do you think constant exposure to curated online lives affects teenagers' mental well-being? Do you think that the pressure to appear perfect has worsened over time? So now, absolutely, the pressure to appear perfect has intensified over time, largely due to the rise of social media. Now, teenagers are constantly exposed to high curated versions of other people's lives, filtered images, edited videos, and the highlight reels that rarely reflect reality. This creates unrealistic standards of beauty, success, and happiness, making many young people feel inadequate in comparison. Now, the psychological toll is significant. Studies have shown links between excessive social media use and increased anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. So the pressure to maintain an ideal online persona can also lead to fear of missing out, which is FOMO, so social comparison, and even body dysmorphia. So unlike previous generations where social media pressures were limited to school or social circles, today's teens face this pressure 24/7 with no real escape. So moreover, algorithms amplify the content that garners high engagement, often fostering and favoring unattainable beauty standards, wealth, or extreme lifestyles. Now, this can distort a teenager's perception of what is normal and fuel a cycle of self-doubt. Even the act of curating own content, choosing the best photos, crafting the best perfect captions, can become exhausting and anxiety-inducing. In short, the digital age has made it harder for individuals and teenagers to simply exist as they are without feeling the need to perform for an audience. So the expectation to be the perfect picture all the time is a heavy burden, and its long-term effect on mental health is truly and still unfolding. Now, the next question is breaking the silence. Why do so many teenagers struggle to talk openly about their mental health? And do you think the stigma is better and the biggest barrier, or is it something deeper? Now, teenagers struggle to talk openly about their mental health for a variety of reasons. And while stigma plays a significant role, the issue runs much deeper. So here's a few points that I just mocked up, right? Fear of judgment. So many teenagers may worry about being labeled as weak, dramatic, or attention-seeking if they express their struggles. Even though mental health awareness has grown, societal expectations still push it and push the idea that they should be resilient and just get over it. Now, the second one is cultural and family expectations. Now, in some families or cultures, mental health isn't openly discussed, and seeking for help is seen as unnecessary or even shameful. Now, teens raised in such environments may feel guilty or invalidated when they experience mental health challenges. Now, number 3 is the lack of emotional vocabulary. Now, adolescence is a confusing time, and many teens simply don't have the words to articulate what they are truly feeling. They might know something is wrong, but with the struggle to express it in a way that makes sense to others. Number 4 is fear of burdening others. Now, many teenagers don't want to stress out their parents, friends, or teachers, or family. They often want to assume that their struggles are not as important and not important enough, or others have bigger problems to deal with. Number 5 is mistrust of adults. Now, some teens believe that if they open up, they won't be taken seriously or face unhelpful responses like you being just so dramatic or it's just a phase. This can discourage them from reaching out. Number 6 is social media illusion. Now, social media normalizes the appearance of having it all together. Now, teens may feel the pressure to maintain a facade of happiness, fearing that opening up about mental health struggles will make them feel and stand out in a negative way. Number 7 is fear of consequences. Some worry that if they admit to struggling, they might be forced to therapy, put on medication, or even face restrictions on their independence. Now, this fear can prevent them from seeking help. So while stigma is a key barrier, the real issue is the combination of social expectations, personal fears, and a lack of safe spaces where teens can talk without the fear of judgment or consequences. So breaking down these barriers requires not just awareness, but also a shift to how we listen, support, and create environments where young people feel truly heard. Now, number 3, the third question is academic and social pressures. With the pressure to excel in school, maintain friendships, and prepare for the future, how can teenagers create a healthy balance? Now, balancing academic demands, social life, and a future planning is a huge challenge for teenagers, especially in a world that constantly pushes them to achieve more. However, it's a healthy balance that is needed is possible with the right approach. Now, here's a few points that I marked up, which is prioritization and time management. Now, teens often feel overwhelmed because everything seems equally urgent. So the key is learning to prioritize by using maybe a planner or digital calendar to break down tasks into manageable steps. You have to set realistic goals, so not every test needs to be an A+, and not every social event is a must attend. You need to learn to say no to unnecessary commitments, and that will drain time and energy. You need to set boundaries, like academic boundaries, by avoiding overloading on extracurriculars or studying to a point of burnout. So set a cut-off time for schoolwork and allow yourself for rest. Social boundaries, because it is okay to take a break from socializing when needed. True friends will understand if you need personal time. Then digital boundaries. by limiting your screen time, especially on social media, and that can prevent distraction and comparison anxiety. Then you need to find the right support system. So talking to trusted teachers, friends, or family members can really ease the pressure. You can seek professional help when stress becomes overwhelming, and that is a sign of strength and not weakness. Schools should provide mental health resources and encourage open discussions about balancing responsibilities. Then we can say making time for mental and physical health. So sleep, that is really important. That is a non-negotiable. So lack of rest affects concentration, mood, and overall well-being. Exercise and hobbies can provide an outlet for stress. Even a short walk or creative activity can make a difference. I mean, just take your pen, doodle, draw, have fun. Then mindfulness and relaxation techniques. So like meditation, journaling, that can help you with emotional regulation. I mean, read your salah, go sit on your musalla, your prayer mat, and talk to Allah. Connect with Him. And I mean, some people will believe, okay, you pray 5 times a day. You can go sit on your musalla, pray to Allah at any time. Now we can look at redefining success. Not everything has to be about competition or perfection. Success should not include happiness. Well, it should include, happiness, growth, and well-being, not just grades and achievements. Now, learning how to enjoy the present rather than constantly chasing the next milestone makes a huge difference in mental health. So ultimately, balance isn't just about doing everything. It's about making intentional choices that prioritize your own well-being, physically and mentally. So the sooner teenagers learn this, the healthier their mindset will be as they move into adulthood. Now, the fourth question that I received is parental expectations versus personal happiness. So how do parents' expectations impact teens' mental health? Are today's teens under more pressure from family than previous generations? Now, parental expectations can have a profound impact on teenagers' mental health, sometimes providing motivation and structure, but often leading to stress, anxiety, and even burnout. So here are some points to how parents' expectations affect teens' mental health. So the fear of disappointing parents. Many teens feel an intense pressure to meet their parents' standards, whether in academics, career choices, or personal behavior. This can create a constant fear of failure, leading to anxiety and self-doubt. So there are struggles with self-worth. When love and approval seems tied to achievement, teens may begin to equate their value with grades, awards, or success. This can result in low self-esteem and imposter syndrome. Now then, it's increased anxiety and burnout. Now, the drive to meet expectations can lead to overworking, sleep deprivation, and mental health exhaustion, leaving very little time for relaxation or socializing. Then it's repressed individuality. Some parents impose career or life paths on their children without considering their interests or passions. This can make teens feel trapped in a future that they don't really want. Then fear of open communication. Teens who feel their parents won't understand or accept their struggles may bottle up their emotions, leading to loneliness, depression, and sometimes unhealthy coping mechanisms. So let's think about that. Are today's teens under more pressure than previous generations? So what I can say is yes, the pressure has intensified for several reasons. So like number one, we can look at high academic standards. Now the competition for top universities and jobs have become more extreme, pushing students to perform at unrealistic levels. Then social media comparison. It's unlike past generations. Today's teens constantly see peers showcasing achievements online, making them feel as if they are falling behind. Then economic uncertainty. Many parents push harder because they believe success is the only way to secure a stable future in an unpredictable world. Then cultural and generational gaps. Some parents, especially in immigrant or traditional families, expect their children to follow rigid career paths. For example, doctor, lawyer, engineer, around those, dismissing alternative dreams. So finding a healthy middle ground is important by engaging in open conversations where parents and teens need to be honest with each other, judgment-free discussions and without expectations, and mental health and personal goals. Then you need to redefine success, where parents should understand that success isn't just academic. It includes happiness, emotional intelligence, and life skills. And then, of course, encouraging a balance. A well-rounded life, including hobbies, friendships, and rest, is just as important as academic or career achievements. So ultimately, while parents' expectations can be well intended, they must be balanced with understanding and flexibility. So a teen's happiness and mental well-being should never be sacrificed for the sake of an ideal that isn't truly theirs. So number 5, the first question was the role of schools. Are schools doing enough to support students' mental health? What changes would you like to see in the educational system or to better address these struggles? Are schools doing enough to support students' mental health? So before I continue with that, I'd like you to answer this question and send us a message via WhatsApp at 060-904-1056. The question that I want you to tell me and explain by your perspective is, what changes would you like to see in the education system to better address these struggles? So 060-904-1056. Now, anyway, as I said, are schools doing enough to support students' mental health? So for the most part, no. Unfortunately, while schools may have made progress in recognizing the importance of mental health, many still fall short in providing real support. Now, the education system largely prioritizes academic performance over students' well-being, often ignoring the emotional and psychological toll that schools-related stress that takes on teenagers. So some key issues include lack of mental health in education. Now, many students don't receive proper education on mental health, coping mechanisms, or how to seek help. Instead, they are left to navigate their struggles alone. Then, inadequate counseling services. School counselors are often overworked, unfunded, or not properly trained to handle mental health crises. So some schools don't even have dedicated mental health professionals. Then is toxic academic pressure. Now, the focus on grades, test scores, and university admissions creates an environment where students feel like their worth is based purely on their achievements. Then is stigma and lack of safe spaces. Many students fear judgment from teachers or peers if they open up about their mental struggles and their mental health struggles, leading to silence and isolation. So I was just thinking, what changes should be made? I want you to tell me this too at 060-904-1056. What changes do you think should be made? Now, from my perspective, in my opinion, mental health as a core subject. So schools should teach mental health awareness, stress management, emotional intelligence, and coping strategies as part of the curriculum. I think that's really important. And then, of course, I'd like to think that more accessible counseling services should be provided, where every school should have trained mental health professionals who are approachable, well-resourced, and available for students without long waiting times. Then I think what's important is reduced academic pressure, where schools should adopt more flexible grading systems, reduce excessive homework loads, and focus on learning rather than competition. And I think teacher training is really important, where educators should be trained to recognize signs of anxiety, depression, and burnout in students, and to respond with more empathy rather than punishment. Then I think what's important is creating safe spaces, really important, where schools need to have designated areas or programs where students can talk openly about mental health without their fear of judgment. Like peer support groups can also help normalize conversations around well-being. Then we can look at parental involvement. Now, schools should work with parents to educate themselves and them on how to support their child's mental health, rather than just focusing on academic expectations. So ultimately, the educational system must shift from seeing students as test scores to recognizing them as individuals with emotions, struggles, and unique needs. So a healthier school environment will not only improve mental well-being, but it also will lead to better academic and personal growth. So the next one was coping mechanisms. So what are some of the most common and often unhealthy ways teenagers cope with stress? How can we encourage healthier outlets? So common and often unhealthy ways that teenagers cope with stress when feel overwhelmed. Many teenagers turn to coping mechanisms that provide temporary relief, but ultimately worsen their mental health. Some of the most unhealthy habits include social media overuse. Now, scrolling endlessly to escape reality can lead to comparison, lower self-esteem, and even more stress. Then isolation, by withdrawing from friends and family, and that may seem like self-protection, but often leads to deepened feelings of loneliness and depression. Most common, substance use. Some teens turn to alcohol or vaping or drugs to numb their emotions or fit in with peers. Now I see in our Muslim community, I see teens who mainly turn to smoking, vaping, and of course smoking cigarettes and weed. That is their way of temporary relief, but it just ruins them. And some of us, because of the stress that they undergo, they know that it's not good for them, yet they still do it. So I think you need to find a balance within your life and balance your needs, your wants, and what you need to do. Now, another thing is overeating or undereating. So food becomes everything, becomes either a source of comfort or something to control when everything else feels chaotic. Self-harm, I've seen a lot, which is painful. Acts like cutting, burning, or hitting oneself can be a way to externalize inner pain. Then toxic productivity, where some teens may bury themselves in schoolwork, thinking that staying constantly busy will help them avoid dealing with their emotions. Then aggression and risky behavior. Lashing out at others, reckless driving, or engaging in dangerous activities can be ways of expressing frustration and seeking adrenaline-fueled distraction. So here's how you can encourage healthier outlets. So helping teenagers build positive coping mechanisms is crucial for long-term mental well-being, and here are some healthier alternatives. So creative expression by journaling, music, art, and writing can help process emotions in a productive way. Then you can look at physical activity. So exercise, yoga, or even a simple walk can help release tension and boost moods. I do know that, like, for example, some people, when it comes to the gym, some people like going to the gym because that is like their safe space. Where you can also have sport like tennis, soccer, and that is their safe space. So physical activity is also really important. So you can find ways that will really help you open up and release tension. Then you can talk it out. It's by encouraging open conversations with trusted friends, families, or professionals, and that can prevent bottling up emotions. Then mindfulness and relaxation. Mediation, meditation, deep breathing exercises, and grounding techniques can help manage stress and that in the moment. Then setting boundaries is important by learning to say no to overwhelming commitments, and taking a break from social media can prevent burnout. Then we can look at healthier distractions. So instead of numbing out with endless scrolling, finding hobbies or new interests can be positive escape. Then you can seek professional help. Like therapy or counseling should be normalized as a tool of managing stress, just like going to the doctor for physical health issues. So by shifting the conversation from just deal with it to teaching healthy coping skills will help teenagers handle stress in ways that support them for long-term well-being rather than harm it. Okay, well, thank you so much for the wonderful day, my lovely listeners. It's time to wrap up, so I will see you next week, Thursday, the 17th of April. Wow, it's this time already. Inshallah. I will see you soon from 2 to 3 p.m. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.